What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Roscoe, and thank you, everybody, for joining in this week. Of course, this week we're continuing our coverage of the Gulfstream Park Championship meet with Sunshine Classic Day and their two stakes that they have, one outside the Lake PICK5 and one inside the Lake PICK5. But of course, we will be covering both for you guys tonight. Thank you guys all for joining in. Greatly appreciated. And thank you to Noah, Ryan, and Patrick for having my back last week. Of course, Happy New Year to everybody. It's the first time that I'm seeing you back since then. So greatly appreciate everyone's support throughout last year. It's been absolutely the best year by far. And hopefully this year is going to continuously continue that trend and make this year the best year by far. But yeah, thanks again to Noah, Patrick, and Ryan for again having my back. As you can see, you guys all know where I go every single New Year's, basically almost every vacation for me, as the boys joke about with me. Disney World was fantastic, of course, with the beautiful Emma and her family. It was just a nice getaway from work and everything with year end and everything like that. So was fantastic. And thank you guys all still for tuning in last week, even though you're not even here for me. You're just here for the boys' picks. We're going to get right into it, guys. But of course, first we have a couple administrative items. As you see scrolling on the bottom side of the screen right now, live shows Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday for Pacific Horseplayers with Noah and Ryan at 8 p.m. Eastern. Us right here every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And Picks and Ponies every single Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow, Picks and Ponies is covering a very, very nice card at Tampa Bay, as they have their three stakes. The road to the Tampa Bay Derby card is tomorrow, so hopefully you guys can tune in to that as well. Yesterday, hopefully, we'll see if they're going to run, but hopefully everybody, if you guys are out in the California area, in the LA area, hopefully you guys are staying safe, if not evacuated already. Terrible what's going on out there with the wildfires, so hopefully everyone can stay safe if you guys are stationed out there. But last night Pacific Horseplayers covered this weekend at Santa Anita Park. So and actually tomorrow night is also Great Race Plays, our Santa Anita show, sponsored of course by the great people at Santa Anita who have partnered with the HHH Racing Podcast now with Howard, Pete, and Paul. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out as the fires continue on over in the LA area. But also, bettinandboozin@gmail.com is scrolling on the bottom side of the screen. That's my email. Please email me with any questions, comments, or concerns you might have about the show. If you want to see some more of some track, please let me know. I'll definitely read them all and gladly be able to accommodate what I can. If you guys enjoy the show, of course, please go down below the video player here on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's completely free to do, and it's the best way to help out our channel, because not only does it show us you guys are enjoying the content, but pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. Every single episode posted here at the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel is also in audio form over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. So please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. Bettin N Boozin at Bettin N Boozin Podcast over on TikTok and Instagram. Fell off a little bit as I went on vacation. However, we'll be ramping up again here, especially come Derby prep season. So please go follow us over there for more short form content. Patreon, guys, this is a big thing that I wanted to address. Obviously, if you guys are on the email list, you guys got the update on our Patreon. We are upping the price, but just by a little bit. It's only $1.30 extra a week, $4.99 a weekend, $21.60 a month is how it's shown on Patreon right now. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Again, only $1.30 increase a week for you guys. Still the exact same great content coming to you guys. Price plays, spot plays, PICK5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We have you covered, but we have a $2.12 ROI all time through 752 total price picks since February of 2021. So please go. If you guys aren't subscribed, you guys are missing out. Again, only $5 a weekend for a multi-page length tip sheet that gives you fantastic information. And if you want to see previous editions of those power picks before you buy them over on patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast, or just want to learn more about us, HHHRacingPodcast.com is the place to do so. Guys, let's get right into the handicappings. We have 6 races to cover for you guys tonight, but not only that, but we have the returning cast and crew, of course, from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel from the Ohio State University, also from Chicagoland area, Charlie Freeman, Mr. South Beach. When well, look who comes crawling back from the host of Pacific Horseplayers, of course, former co-host of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. The man has come back to us. Noah, what's going on, my friend? Of course, Patrick, Charlie. Boys, what's going on?
Pat, this is for you.
Oh,
wow.
Mr. 21, ladies and gentlemen. Noah Maher's finally 21, so of course, jumping on Bettin N Boozin, of course, is the only thing on his mind when he turns 21, as it should be. Boys, I wasted enough time in the intro. Let's get right into it here, because we got to cover, like I said, 6 races, because Gulfstream Park hates me, as one of the stakes races that they carded is outside of the late PICK5. It is race 5. Of course, go into the chat real quick. Katie, of course, was here at 4:25 p.m. So always gracious for Katie's support. Robbie Courtney is here. Robbie, haven't seen your name in a while. Robbie, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. Matt Miller, of course, is here. Our Stephanie says, don't sell Tampa short. We're not. That will be covered tomorrow here on the HHH Racing Podcast. So tune in to that. Of course, Terry Frank is here. Still inexpensive. Completely agree with it, especially, again, not to toot, the horn of all of us that have written on the HHH Racing Podcast Power Picks before, but it's a lot of information, especially for only $5 a weekend. When you go to the track, these tip sheets are charging $8 now, and they give you extensively less information on there. So, and James, my friend James, haven't seen you in the live chat. Of course, see you in the comments every time. James, thanks so much for joining the show. And the boss is happy that we are all back together again. Need some group picks for a tip sheet on Saturday. Absolutely, how we'll try our best to give that to you. Guys, let's get on to race number 5 here as I bring up the Equibase right now. It's the Sunshine Filly and Mare Turf Stakes. Only 8 horses are carded. However, it's a mile on the turf for $75,000 for Florida breds. That's the beauty of Sunshine Classic Day. And as I bring up the Equibase right now, and as we are covering Gulfstream Park here on a Wednesday, everyone knows the drill. No morning lines and no numbers in the form. So please, guys, if you can, as we go through, please try and say the number of the horse as well as the name so people can follow along on who they're talking about. It's going to be favorited between one of the 2 horses. I'm going to assume the number 8, Great Venezuela, is going to be the one favored. Lionel Reyes, Victor Barbosa Jr. is training. And between the number 1, Love Mommy Love, Gaffaleon, Safi Joseph, those 2 are going to be the ones fighting for the favoritism. As I bring up our picks right now, 3 of us are going with the 1 or the 6, however, or one of the 8, excuse me. However, Patrick going a little bit off the rails, probably with most likely 3rd choice in the number 6, Ashima, for oh my God, Emisael Jaramillo, and Santoro is the trainer. Pat, I'm going to let you go first, as you're the one that's a little bit again different than the rest of us. So, what did you like most about the number 6, Ashimi, in this race?
Yeah, I thought she,
Ashima.
Ashima. Right. I thought she's shown to be tactical, steady improvement, especially with the last 3 races. Obviously not at this kind of level here in this spot. But he's 8 for 12 in the money here, and I think kind of fits the bill. The pace does figure to be pretty fast, as Kyle brings that up there. But should sit that nice stalking trip, and has in the past. I mean, I know she had the lead in that optional claimer last out, but kind of was able to do it very easily, winning going away on kind of softer fractions. But in here, I think she should be able to sit off the pace and hopefully catch the speeds late in the stretch.
I mean, a lot of us have the 6. We have actually all of the same 3 horses in here, so we're all kind of viewing it the same way, just with different horses on top. Charlie, I don't know about you, obviously being Mr. South Beach. I feel like that last time she kind of just inherited the lead. It's not necessarily that she's a need the lead type, as you can go back and reform. The last 2, she's won by 4 while sitting off the pace. So I think that last time she kind of just was better than everybody and kind of inherited the lead, and probably will sit off here.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the fractions, if you look at her back numbers, which I really keyed in on, was that race at Gulfstream on the turf, with that 82 buyer clearly shows she liked the surface. But yeah, you can see when the fractions were in the, high 22s, low 23s, she's a good amount off the pace.
Yeah.
But naturally, when you're going 24 and change at Gulfstream Speedway, like you said, that's really slow for Gulfstream, so it's very natural to go that fast. I'll move into the one, though, because I know that was Pat's top pick, and I actually feel pretty strong about this horse. Love Mommy Love has been in really good form lately, and really just likes it here at Gulfstream. Has been in the money 9 out of 10 times on the surface and has won 4 out of 10 starts, including the last 2 on the turf. And I just see her working out a really similar trip. I thought Tyler G did a masterful job last time, just sat on the rail, waited for the opening, saved all the ground, and stayed within touching distance. And I just see him doing the exact same thing around this time. The horse, still has steady works. And yeah, you can see, I believe it was also the one or two in this race, the 2. Yeah, and I mean, I remember watching this race live. The horse had nowhere to go, but Tyler just knew what he had and kept waiting and being patient. And as soon as that gap opened up, got through. And I think in a race like this where there isn't a ton of speed, I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler tries to have her sit a little bit closer, as she's a horse that's ran in sprints for a while until these last few races. So clearly she has some natural speed, and I would argue more than the 6 that we just covered. So I just see her sitting right off the speed and saving a ton of ground.
I honestly thought that last race, I thought she ran huge that last race. I mean, she got stopped. She got shuffled back around the far turn there and still found a way to get up, even though only getting up by a length riding the rail the whole time. I think with all the trouble that she had to push through a wall of 4 horses. I thought she ran huge, Noah. Obviously, you think so as well, as you have her in second, but you also have the number 8, Great Venezuela, in this race where she's much ahead on the numbers she's ran in the past.
Yeah, well, the 1 and the 6 are very similar in the sense that they're just in really good form right now. So, it wouldn't really surprise any of us if one of those 2 kind of stepped back up to where the 8 is right now and maybe gave her a run for her money. But, I wasn't super creative in here. I went with the 8. Obviously, the worry is if she can handle the 2 turns. She did it all the way back in December of last year and finished a nice 3rd here at Gulfstream. But she might just be a better horse now. So, I'm going to take the talent level over the maybe concern with the 2 turns.
No, and I think that's fair. I completely agree with you. That was my thought with her as well. I think she's just a better horse now than she was last December. Obviously running way better figures than she was. That's the last thing I want to touch on, guys. Then we'll move on. You could see, I mean, she's miles ahead on the buyer figures. I mean, she has a 91 top, 87 also on the turf. However, you go to the time form, guys, and this is the thing that I've picked up over the last, half year, I'd say, of us doing this. They're not different at all on here. I mean, she's running those 80 buyers. I mean, that's a 105 and a 104 on time form. You do the normal time form math. I mean, that's like low 80s. Stuff like that, where that's easily doable for someone like the 1 Love Mommy Love, who her last race, she got a 103 herself on time form. And finding those discrepancies is something I've actually really enjoyed over the last couple of years with, and again, not sponsored at all, but with DRF adding the time form pace projector and the time form US figures has actually been a really big help, because you're able to see discrepancies like this where buyer has her rated so high, but time form has her rated nowhere near what that number is, again, on the buyer scale. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind, is even though she's so ahead on one speed figure, she's pretty much dead on with the 1 in another speed figure. So obviously we'll see how that incorporates. Also, for what it's worth, time form US projects it as a fast pace, however, does have the 8 Great Venezuela on the lead. So all of us are going with the same 3 horses. However, couple of us are going with different horses on top. I'm going 186. Pat's going 681. Charlie's going 168. Noah's going 816 in the Sunshine Filly and Mare Turf Stakes at Gulfstream Park to kick off the day for us. However, the late pick 5 kicks off in the next race we're going to talk about, which is a maiden special weight going a mile on the dirt. It's race number 7, draws a field of 10. And as I bring up the Equibase right now, guys, we'll spend obviously a little more time going through the late pick 5, but definitely wanted to include that 1 stakes race in there. However, field of 10, as I said, again, no morning lines. However, going to be steered between 4 horses. I don't think there's really anyone else that's going to be vying for that favoritism. The number 8 Gosker is probably leading the way, if not just a little bit behind. The number 9 Camp Hale for BJ Hernandez and Ian Wilkes. Number 1 Grande is a Rapoli horse, John Velasquez for Todd Pletcher, first-time starter. And then you got the number 2 right to his outside with Luis Saez and Brad Cox. Also a very nice, well-meant colt coming into this race, going 1 mile on the dirt. Again, first-time starter, as I show the picks right now, boys. But, 4 horses, we don't care. Give us one of them and give us the number 8 Gosker, a horse that I gave out last time on the show that we covered, and ran a really nice race. Charlie, let you start first, then we'll go to Noah and then Patrick. But Gosker ran a very big race last time out, just losing to Ain't No Disco, who was just kind of got the jump on Gosker, maybe a little bit farther back than they wanted that day, but still a very nice run and looks to improve off that one, Charlie.
Yeah, he's continuing to work forwardly. And I remember this is a horse we touched on where I had this one underneath, because something you and I both discussed, Kyle, is, we saw with the Uncle Mo and stuff that this horse might want longer than 6, and we didn't know if it was going to be too sharp for him on his debut. And also in the replay, the horse broke very poorly, was way in the back last, and then had a ton of work to do sweeping off the turn to try to make up a bunch of ground. And like you said, for a horse like Ain't No Disco, who got the lead and was able to set very reasonable fractions, it was pretty much going to be impossible in that circumstance to hunt down the leader. But, ran on for a nice second, galloped out well as well. I think, again, this is one where I think he wants the extra distance, gets the Lasix, and I like that he has a solid starter as well, because something we've also talked about before is it is a lot harder as a first timer. Granted, if you're a monster, it doesn't matter, but to get it done at, a mile distance. But I think the 9 will be the favorite for sure, but I think you could argue this is the horse to beat.
I would agree with you. I think the 9 is going to be the favorite as well. No, I mean, we all have this horse somewhere. I, and actually all of us are 8-9 in this race. So we all believe the 9 has a lot of talent, just not really able to get the job done while still running big numbers both at Keeneland and Churchill. In that last race, won by Guns Loaded. Again, no pun intended, but that race seems to be pretty loaded out of there.
Yeah, I mean, Guns Loaded came back and won, I believe it was last weekend here at Gulfstream, and then Ain't No Disco. Of course, we talked about that horse who finished 3rd in there. So yeah, like you said, it's a pretty live race, and then a third horse that came back to win, as you're showing, Kyle. The 84 and the 82 that he's put up, I think are going to be pretty tough. I'm not 100% convinced that he wants to go a mile, which is why I do have him in second. And like Charlie mentioned, Gosker showed a lot of talent first time, as Charlie knows, because he's the Gulfstream guy. When you break slow and are that far back on 1 turn on the dirt, it's really tough to make up ground, and I don't fault him at all for just coming up short to Ain't No Disco. So
I fully agree, and I was completely in your boat. No, I don't know if this horse wants to go the mile, considering that first time out. Obviously, again, it's a completely different race, especially on the front end from 6 furlongs to a mile. I expect this horse to show pretty decent amount of speed stretching out to a mile, and I like that he's drawn outside comparatively to the 2 first-time starters, which we'll talk about next. But Pat, I mean, like I said, this horse has done really nothing wrong. I mean, come up short twice, but to 2 pretty nice horses. It's just a matter of, can you get that extra distance? And obviously, you also have another horse in here that none of us have, which is the number 6 Can't Stop Munnings in 3rd. So feel free to talk about him as well.
Yeah, you guys hit on mostly everything I wanted on the 8 and 9. In there, the 6 Can't Stop Munnings, did go against Patch Adams, who for Brad Cox, who that horse is pretty talented to say the least, and did lose by a solid 10 lengths in second. But I did see some improvement in there. Was 4 wide, should appreciate more ground, I believe. And Brian Lynch has been fantastic down at Gulfstream, especially with some maidens. So. Yeah, I think this horse can hit the board in here, but I do think the 8 and the 9 are a little bit of separators. And then obviously, if you guys want to talk about, the horses making their debuts for some pretty hefty connections.
No, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, Pat, I don't mind the 6 in 3rd in this race, because the problem is for me, there's one thing I don't like at Gulfstream, Charlie, and I'm sure you can touch on this as well. I hate the rail going a mile. Match that with a first-time starter on the rail going a mile. And that just completely almost makes me not want to touch the horse at all, especially a horse like Rapoli Pletcher that's going to be bet pretty heavily, I would assume. There's another thing I have on this horse as well, but I'll let you talk for it first. You and Noah both have this horse in 3rd, so feel free to bounce ideas off each other as well.
Yeah, no, I just saw there was a steady work tab. I know from my experience personally when I was at Gulfstream earlier during the championship meet that the Pletcher first-time starters were not having a ton of success. That being said, none of them were Rapolis that I'd seen, and now that he's finally bringing one over here for a first-time starter in a spot like this also where you have the 9 who I know we've talked about distance concerns, but the reality has buyers that show the horse is proven. The 8 I know was at a maiden special weight 40,000, but looked apart, and that's why this horse is in there. The 6 that Pat talked about is ran against some tough horses. So for me, I just think for Rapoli and Pletcher to throw this horse in this spot, to me, at least speaks volumes that they actually think this one has a real shot, because I'm sure, as I've seen throughout the meet, there's been softer spots that this one could have been thrown into for a debut. That being said, as you touched on again, there's natural concerns about a horse having to go a mile debut, and especially on the rail is always a concern. I don't care who you are or what your connections are. A first timer being all the way on the rail or all the way on the outside always has concerns. That being said, as I think we can all agree with our top 2, I just think the 8 and 9 for everybody who's run are a cut above the rest, and I'd rather take a chance on a flyer and go with someone who hasn't started and see if they're legit than throw in a horse that I've seen before that I just don't think is on the level of the 8 and 9. And I don't know if that's what you thought as well, Noah.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I tried to find a little bit more about, who he'd been working with and how he was working. I couldn't find too much, but yeah, like you said, Charlie, the post number 1, and then the experience that the 8 and the 9 have number 2 is what ultimately, had me put him in 3rd.
And I don't know if you guys saw this or took a look at this, but I mean, Journey Home is a Warfront mare. I mean, that's
turfy.
What? Sorry, say that again.
Little turfy.
The little turfy, I think, is the correct answer. Obviously, Curlin, arguably the best sire of all time. You can debate that with Tappet. Obviously, if I ask Paul Halloran, I'll know which one I'll get from him. However, like I said, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Journey Home. Journey Home was a fantastic mare. However, it was fantastic on the turf. And Curlin's not the best on the turf, so I assume, obviously, working very well on the dirt over at Palm Beach. I assume they're going to try him on the dirt first. Doesn't take to it, maybe try him one more time. Doesn't take to it, then they'll run on the turf. However, just feel like this is a really tough spot for Grande. I went with Wild Conqueror just because of that turf angle. However, again, there's a ton of things. Again, Brad Cox is one to not ship to Gulfstream too often, obviously doing it a little bit more as he won with a first-time starter earlier in the meet and actually was there that day. Sasson Class has had a runner on and was dirt sprinting. However, Royal Charlotte actually won the victory ride over at Belmont, going 6.5 on the dirt, and won the prowess at Saratoga, going 6 on the dirt. So there's obviously very nice turf breeding in there for Wild Conqueror. Just the matter of can the mile be put together here. An authentic, while not the greatest start to his stallion career, dirt routing has been his best idea, going longer than 7 furlongs, even though it is 1 turn. I'd still kind of consider a mile 1 turn a route. But again, but 8% sprinting, and as you get longer, these authentics get better on the dirt. So Wild Conqueror is why I threw that horse in 3rd. And I feel like those 4 are kind of a cut above a lot of the others. And for us, obviously, the 8 and the 9 ahead of the 1 and the 2. I'm going 8-9-2. Pat's going 8-9-6. Charlie's going 8-9-1. Also, Noah's going 8-9-1. Nathan Woodward, good evening, my friend. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Just race 5. We covered the first stakes race of the sequence, and now, of course, race 7, the start of the late pick 5. TC Markham, what's up, my friend? Says number 3 Shogun is live. Can completely see that. Especially that ran big off that last race. However, did lose 11 3/4 to a really nice horse in Patch Adams. But again, definitely at least could be for the minor placings for sure. Guys, let's move on to race number 8 here as we get deeper into the late pick 5. And it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for everybody's favorite time of the sequence. It's your favorite $10,000 Tapeta claimer going a mile and the 16th, of course, on the synthetic with a field of 12, with 2 also eligibles, which I think one of them, I think number 14, Cabernet, if Cabernet gets in, that horse is very live. Beachfront Trophy, I think, was live if this race was 2 years ago. However, not anymore. Again, full field of 12, as I said, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe smart spending for morning line favoritism, but the 12 post going mile on the 16th, at least on the Tapeta, is not that bad as compared to the turf. but still it's a decently quick run up. So you're going to have to get over, but he's a deep closer. So she's a deep closer. So it shouldn't matter for her. But let's move into the picks here, guys. Then we'll get into Noah and I are both going with the number 9, Bizimaline for Tyler Gaffleone and Bobby DeBona. Pat's going with the number 11, Don't Get Pickled, a California bred for Joe Bravo and Patrick Biancone. Charlie's going with also going with the number 11, Don't Get Pickled. So a little 2v2 action for the boys. And Patrick, I'm going to let you go first since Noah and I have the same horse. Feel free to bounce ideas off Charlie, but what would you like most about the number 11, Don't Get Pickled?
Yeah, I think since our teams, or the teams that we root for in college, are playing in the college football playoff, that's what the idea is here.
True.
No,
No kidding.
I don't know.
Mine's definitely not, but I understand.
You're sitting on a national championship. You're all good.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Don't Get Pickled. Listen, she's kind of just been moseying her way around, hitting the board, the last couple times, and I was trying to just see, if she's had excuses here and there, and I do think Last Out, was a bit of an excuse at this level, and I think in here with the way the pace should set up, I know she's got the outside draw, that's never really fun, but that I don't see why that should be a problem in here. Charlie, I know you have this horse too. So as long as, she gets the pace in here, I don't see why not. I definitely think she can hit the board. She's been pretty ultra consistent her entire career.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
she loves it.
Sorry, go ahead, Charlie. My bad.
You're good. I was going to say, yeah, I mean, again, another one that repeatedly, as Patrick was hinting at, finishes in the money at Gulfstream. And I just kind of like that, you could see during the, earlier in this year in the campaign was consistently in the 70s. And then before that layoff started to regress into the low 60s. And it kind of seemed like it was the perfect time to get her a little bit of a break and a reset. And then since then, puts up a 65, then second off the layoff, puts up a 68 and loses by a head in a race where I agree. I think the horse did not get the easiest trip by any means. And I know 5 is not young, but in this race, the Grandpa Stakes of this 10,000 claimer, 5 years old, she actually is relatively young. And I'm guessing, again, Pat, I know you talked about a little bit, but this is something that you saw as well. It's just, I just see a younger horse who's 5 that seems to be re-improving off that layoff now, third time out, is getting closer and ultra consistent. And I feel like in a race like this, I mean, obviously we don't have morning lines yet, but if I had to guess, I would think either the 9 or the 12 are going to be the favorites. So I just wanted to try to find a horse that'll probably be 3rd, 4th, 5th choice and, be at least decent value, because I think this is the kind of race where you could find a middle in price that could realistically win. And if she takes another step forward, I don't see why she couldn't put up a low 70, which in this field is enough to win.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm like, Don't Get Pickled, I guess. I'm a younger guy that's 24 but acts like a grandpa. He's 5 and is younger.
Dude, Grandpa's canon now. We like that around here. That's what we call Pat on the
a younger horse that's 5. That's amazing. I give that horse a ton of credit.
Yeah, dude, that's oh my god. You just made Grandpa canon now. Now you're screwed for the rest of the time. So we call him behind the because after the show he gets off like right away and goes to bed. So we give him some crap on the backstage. So now that it's canon, you'll get it full front on the full front. But yeah. No, I don't know about you, my friend. I mean, obviously we think the horse is live. She's gotten good over the last 2, just losing to 2 horses that are actually one's in the race and one's on the also eligible list. I think she has a very good chance to hit the board, but on the win end, I can't trust 2 for 25 in the last 2 years. It's just not something that I'm able to do. However, I do think she can run very well.
I don't know if you guys watched the last race carefully. She should have won the race. I mean, she kind of took the lead at the top of the stretch, or just after they kind of hit the top of the stretch. Bravo thought he had the thing won, and Bravo, he didn't stop riding, but he thought he had it in the bag. And then here comes Cabernet, who circles the field, who broke slow, is the 2 in the race. Just nails her on the wire. You can see Bravo's on the 9 wide and is coming up to the leaders here. He basically goes by the 8. Whips her once and then starts handwriting her for a while, and then looks to the board here in a second, and then realizes the 2's coming, starts to try to whip her again, and the 2's got all the momentum. So I thought she should have won the race, and I'm actually surprised that all 4 of us have her in the mix here, because like Charlie said, I do think she'll be a bit of a price just because she's a little hard to trust on the win end, but she does like it here at Gulfstream and certainly 1 in the money.
Yeah, I mean, look, 7 for 10 in the money, but just 1 on the win end, obviously in synthetic. I think she's very good. Just a matter of putting it together on the win end for her, but definitely at least underneath, I think you have to include her in your vertical plays. Noah, our time to shine. Bizamalene was a horse that actually ran last time, never really got in the race, got shuffled back off the start, never had a chance. However, when she's near the lead, she runs very, very well. She's 6 now, but however, last year she was 10 for 14 in the money, 5 of those on the win end. So it's, even though she's still getting older, still one that can run very well, and she's shown to run not only well on the turf, but also 5 for 15 on the synthetic.
Yeah, I honestly don't really know what happened last time. I know it says bumped after the start, but there wasn't really any other excuse. It just wasn't her day that day. She was 5-2. I believe there are 5 or 6 horses that are actually coming out of that race, including the 12, who somebody will touch on in a little bit. But claimed away from Jennifer Young and over to Bobby DeBona, which I think is a big trainer upgrade. You can see in the bottom left, DeBona's very good first off the claim. And another rider upgrade to Tyler Gaffleone, which I don't know if we've mentioned yet, but Irad, I believe, is riding in Tampa this weekend. So Gaffleone's definitely going to have some live mounts, and I think this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And yes, that is correct. Our Stephanie mentioned that at the top of the show. And I just pulled it up to my left here. I can pull it up while we're walking. Even though Bobby DeBona hasn't had the best start to Gulfstream Park, the championship meet this year, 28 for 130, 22% off the claim. So I think I completely agree with you, Noah. Off the claim, it's definitely an upgrade and worth looking at. Just a horse that's run very, very well in a race that doesn't necessarily have too much speed in this race. But I think the horse that a lot of us have in second place, even though Smart Spending is a deep closer, doesn't really matter the pace. I mean, look at the. I couldn't believe this pace when I saw it first. This is your summer torpedo 12,000 claimer or 10,000 claimer at Gulfstream Park. 27 flat and 52 and 1. I mean, that's a harness quarter, dude. Like, that's crazy for a mile at Gulfstream Park.
I don't even think you can call that walking. I feel like that would be a compliment. That's still too fast. That's
no,
insane.
I mean, that's.
Do they have walkers out there? Like, that's the only explanation I can
say. That's like
insane.
Elderly home lap around before you go to bed type thing. Yeah. I think, but. I mean, besides that, I mean, look, he always comes with his run, Charlie. So I think he's at least worth a look and definitely needs to be included vertically. But he is going to be bet low. Obviously, Barbosa is very good and a guy you've talked about a lot as we've covered Gulfstream. But maybe one that's hard to trust just because he is such a deep closer.
Yeah, no, Victor Barbosa just continues to do an underrated and fantastic job, and he still honestly has kept it up even as we've now moved into the championship meet. I think the thing that you have to give this horse credit for and why, I mean, number one, these races are always the most wide open and biggest disaster and horizontal, so you have to spread and go deep here. Obviously, if Carbonet gets in here, I think you could be a little more narrow because that's the clear horse to beat. That being said, with smart spending, like you've hit it, I mean, you look at the race, 2 back and 3 back, 24-72 and 49-4, then 24-6 and 50 flat. I mean, they walked in both of those races too, and the horse lost by half length both times. So even though she has absolutely no early speed and has to close like a freight train, she's still shown, even at 7 years old, that she can get it done and still close in, even when there is absolutely no pace setup. That's why this is one who, if I had to guess, I think it'll be between the 9 and 12 as your 2 horses that end up vying for favoritism. I think you'd have to use both of them realistically in my horizontals. I know the 9's not in my top 3, but I think you'd probably have to go 4, 5, 6 deep in this race because really anybody could win. But look, the form is held up, 3 straight buyers in the 70. And also, if you pay attention to the form, even if it doesn't seem like a big difference, because she is such a true closer, she's a completely different horse in a mile and a 16th compared to when it's a mile and 70 on the synthetic. And this isn't a mile and a 16th. So if this was a mile and 70, I would honestly toss her. And even though that sounds crazy to be that small of a difference, you look at the form and it matters. And I think that's why we all have her here somewhere. Is when she's at this distance, she always finds a way to at least make her run and fight for a chance to win.
And even though she's 7, I mean, as she's gone on to this year, I mean, she's gotten better, realistically speaking. So definitely worth at least an inclusion somewhere. I think it's one you have to include on the win end. However, betting win end wise going to be a short price and pretty hard to trust considering this horse is probably going to be coming from 7th or farther back than that. Last horses we'll talk about Patrick, then we'll move on. You have 2 horses none of us have anywhere, so feel free to talk pretty quick for these. Amunet is a horse for Michael Matz that you have in 2nd, and the number 3 Worldly Beauty is a horse that you have in 3rd, if I believe correctly. So What'd you like most about those two?
Yeah, listen, I'm trying to find somebody else in here. I think Amunet, she's probably going to be 15-1-ish in that range. Last out wasn't very good at all, kind of just faded late. But I gets back onto the Tapeta, hasn't run that in over a year, back in December of 23. See a little bit of a pattern of preferring the inside. So I'll take a shot with her. She's going to come from off the pace in here. So that's with the 1. And then the 3, Worldly Beauty. Another one in here that's kind of just like the field, honestly, but has faced a decent amount of them. She did deal with trouble early on, did have to steady. So I'll give her another chance, hopefully to hit the board in here. But I'm looking for a price. I'm not trying to really find anything under 5-1.
Yeah, and then this is a race that Howard actually put it in the chat. I showed on he's looking for a fresh face. This is a race that I actually really like to do that in. However, there's really just nothing else. I mean, this is the only other horse that I looked at was Clouds of White. Has numbers in the past 71 and 72 to be able to run. It's going to be mid-pack, which definitely favors on this Tapeta course coming over from Trumpetta to Falcone, which I think is a plus to see. Putting him back to the 10,000 claimer, which is probably where she can win in this spot. Just a matter of, can she put it together on the Tapeta? And that's always a question mark for these horses. But Clouds of White would be that type of fresh face for me, at least in this race. I'm going in race number 8. I'm going 9, 12, 11. Pat's going 11, 1, 3. Charlie's going 11, 12, 4. Noah's going 9, 11, 12. Let's move on to race number 9, guys. And this is actually a really nice optional claimer for $75,000 for 3-year-olds going 1 mile and 16th on the turf. Draws a field of 9. And as I show the picks right now, the number 6, Dream On, is going to be your favorite and probably your pretty heavy favorite in this race, followed up by a couple in here. But the number 6 definitely will be your morning line favorite. And I'll show the picks right now. 3 of us are trying to beat Dream On in this race, for better or for worse. I'm going with the number 3, City of Oscars. Pat's going with the number 8, Pay the Juice, and Noah's going with the number 4, Ready for Peace. However, Charlie, you are going with the number 6, Dream On. Not too much to touch on her, obviously, as she is coming from the Breeders' Cup, where she actually did run pretty well. But what'd you like? And obviously was showed in a grade 1 up at Woodbine for Mark Cassidy. What'd you like most about Dream On in this particular spot?
Yeah, I just think she's incredibly dangerous in this spot. I mean, if I had to guess, she's going to go off at probably 3-2, 6-5, 7-5, somewhere around there. Ultimately, I just thought a lot of the other speed in this race was more of either cheap speed or their speed is kind of overstated, because when you look at the actual fractions that have been set, they just don't remotely compare, or they just haven't been running against nearly the same level of competition. I don't think Dream On needs the lead by any means, but obviously I do think from his style, he's going to have to be within, I'd say, a length of the lead. But I don't think the fractions are going to be that crazy. Again, it's continued to be Gulfstream Speedway. It is a track where, even though I love betting my closers, you do want to be towards the front. And I just think based off of class, natural ability, and again, just the setup of this race, it's going to be really hard for him not to find himself in a really good spot in this race. Definitely would be one where, you would try to either take a stand and maybe single or go too deep in this race after the race before is a spread, or completely toss this one and try to beat Dream On. But I think this is just a very likely winner. Hasn't really done anything wrong. And like you mentioned, I know the buyer only came back to be a 78, but, set some pretty decent fractions and ran well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
I mean, yeah, it ran actually very well. I mean, losing to a bunch of really nice horses, obviously led that day by Henri Matisse. Noah, I mean, look, you just have to really respect her. But obviously, a lot of us are trying to beat her in this race, coming off of that Breeders' Cup, off a pretty 2-month layoff. And this is the horse I looked to a lot and actually had on top for a long while, and then ended up changing it at the last second. But Ready for Peace is a horse that Ignacio Correas actually threw in the Juvenile Mile at Kentucky Downs, ran well, and then actually threw in the Breeders' Futurity, which is probably, and he would even say, an interesting move at this point. Warfront Dam, really nice breeding, and obviously getting back to the surface where he can really thrive.
Yeah, this is probably one of my stronger opinions in the day. I think it's either 4 or 6, and I am trying to beat the 6, even though Dream On's Barn Bait Nitrogen won last week, which I think you got to kind of upgrade him a little bit in that regard. But Ready for Peace. Nacho Correas is a guy, when I worked for Resolute Racing, he took over a couple of our 2-year-olds. And he just flat out said, I don't crank first time out. So the fact that, he was able to win on debut, won it professionally, it was going long as well. And then had the confidence to throw him in that juvenile mile, the listed stake, like you said, Kyle, Kentucky Downs. Thought ran a really nice race there, 68 buyer, 98 time form, which I think Dreamon's best time form was 2 back, which was a 103. So if there's some improvement from 2 to 3, because he has been off for some months, I think he could be right there with the 6, and hopefully he's sitting a really good trip just off the speed.
Yeah, look, I might end up changing it by Saturday, where I post all my picks on X. Obviously, our X handles are on our name tag, so feel free to follow us over there. This horse might even be my top pick because, like I said, I had this horse on top for the longest time, and I always look over my picks right before the show and go over the races again, just in case I want to change anything. And I didn't end up changing it in this race. However, I completely respect Ready for Peace and think this horse has a lot more to give, especially Nacho Correas, who I think is one of the best at spotting his allowance type horses. And this is one for me in this spot. I ended up going with number 3, City of Oscars, in this race. Little bit of a change up, but still, I thought last time ran into a ton of trouble at Gulfstream Park. First time off of a little bit of a hiatus from Aqueduct and a 2-month hiatus. Off slow, never really had a chance, especially when they went almost 24.5 seconds for the second quarter. Hit the rail as well as noted by in the notes and was 3 to 5 that day. Going to get way more than 3 to 5 in this spot, and I think if you get anywhere in this, 5, 6, 7 to 1, I think City of Oscars really could just revert back to the 73, maybe run the high 70s, low 80s, which might be good enough to win in a race like this. Obviously, Dream On has run that 90, but that was really the only one. Other than that, 78 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So I think City of Oscars is definitely not one to overlook either in this spot. Pat, you have the number 8, Pay the Juice, and this is another one that I actually gave a look at. I think this horse definitely enjoys the turf more. Obviously, best number still on the turf after running 3 times on the dirt in New York State Bred Stakes. This is one I think that people definitely need to include as well if you're trying to beat the favorite Dream On.
Yeah, looking at this horse when back in Saratoga, Pay the Juice, tried to get on the turf, second time out, but ended up getting into a off the turf race that was a bit of an easier field. And then kind of they just stuck with the dirt and hasn't really done much. But I do think there's definitely, a lot of turf in this horse. And Sugar and the connections of, the great coach Bill Parcells, who owns this horse, I think are putting this horse in a spot where they know who has been training well. They know what they got in here. This is obviously a tough field. I'm going to take a chance. I have a feeling this horse is going to be a pretty decent price, probably over 10 to 1 in here. So should appreciate more ground too. So I'll try and beat the 6, but I do think that you guys are on it with the 4 and the 6.
Look, Shug McGay, he obviously knows what he's doing. Omaha Beach, though, just doesn't really have the best turf numbers. However, Malibu Moon Mare, like you said, should really appreciate the extra distance that she's been given, and we'll see. Obviously, his best number still on the turf. So definitely one thing to keep in mind for a horse that should be a pretty decent price in this race. Last horse we'll talk about real quick is number 9, Noah, that you have, Scarecrow. I think, the Armed Forces was pretty good. I've 24.48, 49.48, pretty slow pace, and still was able to close decently in that race. Just not enough. And obviously Jorge Delgado is very good at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, I think he's one that I think is going to benefit from the more ground. You saw last time in the pulpit, he lost to Mibago, I don't know how you say that. Came back and won, and he went wire to wire that day, opened up big. So he was pretty far out of it that day. And I'm hoping with there should be a decent amount of speed. I know the 2 is going to go. Dream On's going to be there. I think the 1's got to send from the inside too. So hopefully those will heat it up. I don't know if he's necessarily good enough to win the race. But he will be running late, hopefully maybe for a piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Don't disagree with that at all. And a horse, again, should be a pretty decent price. I'm going 3, 6, 4 Pat's going 8.64. Charlie's going 6.43, and Noah's going 4.69. Guys, let's move on to race number 10. Race number 10, which is the feature on the day. It's the Sunshine Classic Stakes, and I bring up the Equibase right now. Joe has a big field of 12 with morning line favorite. I mean, this one's pretty tough too, guys, but Shaq Diesel should be pretty decently bet. Big Martini's probably going to be bet a little bit. And the number 3, I believe, Lure Him In should be pretty, or the 4, excuse me, number 4, Secret Chat should also be bet pretty decently in this race. As I bring up the picks right now, 3 of us are going with number 4, Secret Chat in this race for Castellano and Barboza. Charlie is the only one going a different way and going with Shaq Diesel, a horse that Noah and I think is very live. We both have the horse in second. And Noah, very base picks, my friend. Always appreciated to see someone go with me exactly for first, second, and third. But Charlie, you have the floor, my friend, to tell us why we're all wrong and why the number 7, Shaq Diesel, is going to win race number 10, the Sunshine Classic at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little hurt. I expected to see at least Noah rock with me on Shaq Diesel because that's a horse him and I have liked a lot. But no, to be honest with you, I just think Secret Chat is going to end up going off as a pretty heavy favorite, actually. I think this is a pretty open field, but I just think from the form to the connections and how much Secret Chat likes it here, I have a feeling Secret Chat will probably be somewhere around 5-2, 3-1, and I'd rather go for Shaq Diesel, who I think I'll get 5 or 6-1, 9-2, somewhere around there. But yes, time form shows. I just think there's going to be a pretty decent amount of pace in this race. Shaq Diesel loves it here at Gulfstream and has been able to get it done at a decent price plenty of times here before. Also, it's a very versatile horse who it doesn't really matter if it's a hot pace or not. I have a feeling that since it will be a hot pace, he'll probably take a little farther back and, sit 4 or 5 lengths off the lead and then make a move. But if for whatever reason it ends up being one of those races where we say everybody's going to go and they don't, as we've seen in the past with this form, when they don't go, he's happy to sit, within a length or 2 and then make his move. I like the form. I will actually say I actually am, and no, yes, I am feeling okay, happy that Joel Rosario is aboard because considering the alternatives have been Joe Bravo and Miguel Vasquez, who I actually like Miguel Vasquez, but he's never quite as big time. And I know how Noah and I feel about Joe Bravo, as you talked about earlier, Kyle, where he thought he wanted to race earlier. So I think gets an upgrade. Also had that nice work, 47-4. I think the biggest concern is the layoff because we haven't seen the horse since July. But that being said, when he had his big layoff from April to October last year, he came back and at 26-1 ran an 89 buyer at this track. So I just think he makes a ton of sense and I'll get good value and could work out a really nice trip here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Noah, you and I both agree on this horse as well. Just a matter of maybe a horse that not really too hard to trust. He's 2 for 7 in both 23 and 24 on the win end, 5 for 7 last year in the money. So obviously a horse you definitely want to include somewhere if you're playing horizontals. Also, just maybe a little bit of a layoff concern, not necessarily too much of a concern, but I think it's definitely at least worth noting, but should be one to take advantage of what looks to be a pretty hot pace.
Yeah, I actually don't have too much of a concern with the layoff just because David Fox is actually 32% plus 180 days the last 5 years. So very good off of long layoffs. This is actually going to be 179 days. I actually did the math. So I don't know if that would necessarily count, but still good enough. Like you said, Kyle, obviously likes Gulfstream. Charlie, I don't know if you touched on this, but it seems like in his last 2, I think his best asset has kind of been taken away from him. He's been a little closer to the lead in those June and July races. Where I think he likes to come from out of it. And obviously, Kyle, you showed it. There is going to be a pretty decent amount of speed in here. And like you said, Charlie, I think Rosario, even though sometimes he's not the most instructive guy to ride horses, I think as long as he takes him back and does that, I think, he's going to come with one run and hopefully it's good enough.
To me, I think it's between 2 in this race. I think it's between Shaq Diesel and the number 4 that you, Patrick, and I have on top. Patrick, of course, I'll let you have first crack at Secret Chat. Those last 2 races off of the layoff since the Lexington have been very, very good. Also, I saw Encino has been on the work tab again, so good to see him back after winning the Lexington last year and hasn't been seen since. But I mean, has not done anything wrong since coming back. Only improved 86 to 87, and to me looks poised to run a pretty big one here.
Yeah, we were at the Lexington, right?
That's right. I think so. I think a couple people were in that winner's circle.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
that was us. Let's
That's
go.
great.
It's the only reason they won, right, Kyle?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to Dan Pride over at Godolphin. Fantastic
Yeah,
guy.
because I think the boss had Encino in the Keeneland tournament.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
second
great.
biggest win bet I've ever made in my life. Was on Encino, just behind my girl Elusive Princess. That day at Saratoga, that we were all there. That was in the pouring rain. Anyway, sorry. Continue on Secret Chat.
Yeah, it's like my divot in golf. The stuff they were kicking up that day.
Oh yeah, we'll see that.
Yeah. Secret Chat. I don't know. I think this horse, definitely stands up a little bit on the field. But I am concerned. The horse has had a little trouble getting out of the gate, whether it's slow start or kind of coming out the wrong way, but has won pretty impressively and consistently over the last two tries in here. And I think should sit a nice stalking trip in here in a pace that, as Charlie hit on, is going to be pretty quick in here. And I think Vic Barboza has been fantastic at Gulfstream, as he usually always is.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to try and get cute in this spot.
Me neither. I mean, I think, like I said, I think it's between two for me, between the 4 and the 7, just who gets the better trip out of the 2. The 4 should, in theory, get a jump on the 7. So that could be a thing to keep in mind as well. But Secret Chat's going to be my top pick, and a pretty confident one in that. But we'll keep it moving along here, guys, as we're crossing the 50-minute mark. Charlie, Patrick, actually, I'll let you finish up here with, you have 2 horses that neither one of us have in both 2nd and 3rd. So I think it's at least for your due diligence, you have the number 12, Big Martini, one to be part of that speed duel and Holiday Pay, one to be coming from a little bit mid-pack.
Yeah, Big Martini does get a little courageous out on the lead. Listen, I know this is going to be a fast pace and it's going to have to go from the outside. But, I've seen it before where, a horse will get the lead early and, they just don't come with them. So I do think this horse has been pretty quality too. So I'm not just trying to stick this horse in there and think, this horse is going to be bet. I'm assuming, it should be 3rd or 4th choice. So I think, Big Martini has a big shot and has been working fairly well in this spot leading into this as well. So that's why I have Big Martini there. And then the 11, Holiday Pay. We all love a good Holiday Pay. Listen, I think that Holiday Pay has been, for Safi, he seems to always lurk in these spots, is a little bit of a longer shot. And I hate getting beat by this guy in a stakes race. So that's kind of why I have this horse in 3rd, because I've been known to have to deal with a losing ticket with Safi at a long shot, where I think this horse is going to be double digits in odds.
I hate losing to him just in Florida in general, because when he wins, it's at a decent price. You're like, well, that was moronic. Why don't you have Safi Joseph Jr. at a price at Gulfstream Park? Anyway, Charlie, finish this off real quick. Lightning Tones is a horse you have in 3rd, and obviously you think can run on for at least a little bit of a in the money shot.
Yeah, I was torn between Lightning Tones and Awesome Train, who Tyler G's on actually for Antonio Sano. I think both of them, the reason I'm interested in the 9 and the 5 is just because they're both, the reality is they're going to be closers. I know the 5 in its last race and the 9 in its last race, that both of them were sitting closer. That's because it was cold paces. And, as we've continued to talk about on this show, the reality is with all the hot pace that we're going to see, someone, even if we didn't get his 4-7, someone's going to have to clunk up. And if you're looking to blow it up, especially with this 9, because admittedly with Sano and Gaffleone, I'm sure Awesome Train will take money. But this 9 does not have the same level of strong connections, but does like it here at Gulfstream. Has been in the money 14 out of 22 times here. And, last 2 efforts were going a mile plus on the dirt here and ran 2nd and 3rd, both at big prices. So I think this is absolutely a horse. And I know Howard will be able to hear this. I think this is one to consider using in track keys.
There we go. He said the word, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, guys, let's move on to race number 11, which is the closing leg of the late pick 5. I'm going 4-7-2. Pat's going 4-12-11. Charlie's going 7-4-9. And Noah's going 4-7-2 in the featured Sunshine Classic Stakes. Guys, moving on to race number 11, and it's the claiming 20,000 going on the turf at a mile and the 16th, which is again everyone's favorite closeout, which is a massive field claiming race on the turf. Morning line favorite will most likely be the number 3 Nantasket Beach, Joe Bravo and Kelly Breen. Rough draft, I think, out to the 11 hole. I think he has a little bit of a pace angle, so I think he might get bet down, but I think Nantasket Beach should be pretty solidified in the favoritism spot, and you'll see 3 of us are going with the number 3 Nantasket Beach, and Noah's going with the number 4 Alley Oop Johnny, which I thought was going to be not necessarily on an island with the 4, but I thought he was at least a little bit interesting because he's going to be a pretty decent price, I would assume, at least middling, if not higher than that. But Alley Oop Johnny, Noah, is a horse that I'm very interested in. Obviously, Charlie is as well, and you have on top.
Yeah, I don't know what price he'll be just because outside of the 3, not a ton of options, at least what I liked. But yeah, Alley Oop Johnny. This is a little fresh face in the sense I was just trying to get a little cute because I know the 3 is the class and could just be coming into softer company. That last race, I really could not find an excuse for him. I know he was part of a hot pace, but got the first jump on everybody. Was just kind of flat in the lane. Again, like I said, could be just the better company that day and maybe just facing some better horses. You see that the second place finisher came back and won, and then Border War is a nice horse too. But trying to beat him with Alley Oop Johnny. I know he's an 8-year-old, but just some things that I like in terms of intent. This is a horse that hasn't run since August, switches back to Drexler. This is actually a voided claim. So Drexler's, taking the time to ship this horse all the way down to Florida. I know it's a $20,000 claimer, but I believe they're running for a decent person, $31,000. And Drexler, with the limited horses that he's had run here so far down in South Florida, had some success, 2 for 5. Been down at Gulfstream before, so likes it here, 3 for 8 on the win end. Just a really classy individual. Hopefully his best days aren't behind him because I think he's going to need a pretty good effort to beat the 3. But just looking in a different direction again. Cathleon hops on, certainly some live mounts, and hopefully he can close it out on Saturday.
No, absolutely. And I do completely agree. The only thing I don't personally like about the 4, at least on top, I think you have to respect the fact that the horses run low 80s, mid 80s even before, and probably even higher than that if you go farther back. But he's 8 years old, as Noah said, and he's coming off like another layoff. He's coming off another 4-month layoff into this spot. Martin Drexler's not necessarily the best guy coming off the layoff, Charlie. Although I think you have to respect him, but again, might just need one. And actually, Howard took the words out of my mouth. Drexler usually need one at Gulfstream Park this time of year, but he fits. Again, I think you have to respect him, Charlie. But one, I think, might just be a little bit outclassed by our top pick, the 3.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think this is a race where you could potentially, single the 3. I do think the 3 is absolutely, he's definitely the class of this race. Again, just like how we talked about that race earlier where I like the 5-year-old on top, is relatively young compared to Alley Oop Johnny at 6 years old. That being said, because this is a 20,000 claiming race at the end, I don't think this is exactly the race I'd be jumping at the bit to single a horse in. So I actually agree with a lot of what Noah said. I also don't know if you mentioned it or not, but Alley Oop Johnny really likes it here at Gulfstream. 3 for 8 on the win end, 5 of 8 in the money. So I think that is something that is important when you find these older horses near the end of their careers. I think it is a benefit for a horse who likes to run here. And as he also did touch on, the small sample size, Martin Drexler's horses have run well here. Obviously, Alley Oop Johnny could need one, but I also feel like at 8 years old, I don't know how true that is because I feel like at this point, he just is what he is at this point. And what he has been is, he's won 2 of his last 3 and has been in those mid 80s that fit. That being said, I think the 3 is, again, a clear class above the rest of this field, has put up consistent buyers in the, low to high 80s that would easily fit this spot. Another one that likes it here had a really nice effort in April at Gulfstream. Last time I hear what Noah was saying, I do agree. I think actually Sammy Camacho gave a great ride and really no excuses, but they absolutely flew in that race. And I just think in a race full of older, slower, weaker horses, I don't think the 3, even though, rough draft, as you mentioned from the outside, is going to send, I just don't see them having fractions anywhere near 22 and change and 45 and change. I mean, for all we've been talking about this meet about laughing all these slow fractions in other races, they absolutely flew in that one. So I just think if it's even a somewhat reasonable race, as long as Joe Bravo doesn't think the wire is already there and he's already won the race, there's really no excuses for the 3 to not get it done here.
Pat, obviously, I completely agree, and I'll show the time form. Time form completely agrees. They actually have the 11 on the lead, which I mentioned at the start of us covering this race, but the 3 is sitting right behind, again, at what seems to be a pretty slow fractions. I agree with the fact that the 3 has no excuse but to get this one done.
Yeah, three's got no excuse. Alley-oop Johnny, though, I do like where where you guys are thinking with that horse. I do have some history there going back to, I think it's like July 15th
Yes,
of
so do we.
21. My
Yep.
first Saratoga beat ever. This horse gets beat by a nose at 11-1. I was trying to close out a nice pick 3, but that's for another day. I'll talk about the 2 a little bit. Charlie hit on the 3, mostly
Yeah,
everything I
please.
wanted to say, so I won't really reiterate too much there. Media sensation. Listen, this horse the last 2 times out, just has been in the money, but just hasn't really done much. Was no match for the winner 2 back, but gets back to the turf here, and I think should sit a nice stalking trip in here. The pace is going to be the problem. Is 6 years old now, but I'm willing to take a shot in here with the 2 who should be. I would say 10-1, 9-1 in here. So I don't know. I'm trying to find a lot of prices on this card if you can't tell.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, this is definitely it's a tough card, obviously, and then we have the 11 all in there. I think it's for me, it was just a pace angle. Looks to be the only one that's a true send horse, and even though he's 6 as well, does very well here at Gulfstream and has done very well the last 2 times. A little bit of a step up in class, I think, but Fernando Abreu is no stranger to that. Patrick and Noah, you guys both have this horse in 3rd.
Pat, go ahead.
And this is, sorry, we're talking about Rough Draft. Sorry, I'm getting a little. Rough Draft, the 11 has an outside draw in here, which going 2 turns shouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But this is another one. You look back on the PPs and December 1st on the Tapeta, going that sprinting distance, ran some fractions of that. I thought were a little too quick in here for that horse. Gets back to 2 turns where. You look back at the Saratoga meet in the summer. Rough Draft was running pretty well. I know. Faced a couple nice, New York bred horses. Obviously, he is a New York bred, but I think he gets back to that. Should be right there in the mix.
No, I agree with you. Obviously, Noah, you have this horse in 3rd. Real quick, pace angle, or obviously those back numbers also look very good, as Patrick pointed out.
More of a pace angle. I mean, outside of him, there's really not a ton of speed. I guess you could say the 3.
Right.
And I think the 4 will be close, which is why I like him a little bit. But yeah, like you said, I know he's gone 2 turns before, but maybe he's just found a niche in those last 2 where just getting to the lead and seeing how long he can hold. Don't know if he's going to be able to hold it going 2 turns, but again, there's really no world beaters in here, so.
I can believe
he was able to get the job done on the win end, or on the lead, excuse me. Would not shock me at all.
And he's run well at 2 turns beforehand. I mean, 0 for 5 at this distance. However, going 7.5 at Gulfstream Park, did win just off the pace last year now at this point, which is now 2025. Charlie, close us out, my friend, real quick. Rock the stars. You have this horse in 3rd.
Yeah, I completely understand that when you see a horse who's pretty much a dead closer in a race with no speed, you're thinking why, especially at 6. My 2 angles are pretty simple, even though he hasn't been finishing in the money yet. He does have numbers that fit in this spot, and I also just find it incredibly interesting that Edgar Zayas, who's one of the best jockeys at Gulfstream, especially when it's not where all the main jockeys from around the country are here, and it's mainly just the Gulfstream ones, chooses to hop on this one. I know for a fact you're going to get a square price, because if you look at this horse's price history, I don't think you can find single digits in a really long time. And another one that I think you could absolutely use in the mix underneath. And hey, even though I think a lot of us agree it's probably the 3, or maybe the 11 gets lucky on slow fractions, or the 4 can sit a similar trip. If you don't feel the same way as us and you are looking for a bomb, or you just want to play a horse underneath and tries or exactas, I think Rock the Stars is not impossible underneath.
No, completely agree with you. And obviously, I think it's very skinny on the win end. However, underneath, you can play a multitude of different things, different horses underneath in this race. To round out the late pick 5, I'm going 3, 4, 11. Patrick's going 3, 2, 11. Charlie's going 3, 4, 10. Noah's going 4, 3, 11. Guys, moving on to best bets. And of course, before we go there, it's our time to say thank you guys all so much for joining in tonight. It's greatly appreciated. Obviously, we have the whole band back together. And it's so appreciated for your fantastic viewership that we've had all night long. If you guys are enjoying the content over on X, can you please come over here to YouTube? Even and YouTube, making a YouTube account is just the same thing as your Google account. If you don't have one, it takes 2 seconds. Please come down below the video player, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And also, if you're watching this as a replay, please comment below who's your best bet of the entire sequence. We read every single comment underneath the video player and would love to have a chat with you guys. So again, subscribe and comment your best bet below after the show, or if you're watching this as a replay. Guys, moving into best bets here. And Charlie, I'll let you go first, my friend, just because that's the way I have it right now. Here you're going with 2 win bets. Super simple. Win on race number 5, the race outside the late pick 5 we covered. The Sunshine Turf Fillies and Mares Turf Classic. Love Mommy Love win on the number 1, and race number 10, which is the Sunshine Classic, going to win on the number 7 Shaq Diesel.
Yeah, I wanted to go with the 2 feature races, and honestly, the other races left was the 10,000 claimer, then 2 horses I like that are going to be heavy favorites, and still want to provide value. I think the 8 is going to end up being the heavy favorite in the first race as the lone speed and the big buyer numbers. But Love Mommy Love again is in terrific form right now. Loves going a mile turf on Gulfstream, gets Tyler G again. And again, I know saved a ton of this ground last time out, but also ran into a bunch of trouble and had to keep waiting and was loaded. I think without trouble wins that race by 2+ lengths and would probably be the favorite. So I'm hoping people just see the half length win and aren't quite as impressed as with the form of Love Mommy Love as they should be. And then Shaq Diesel again. I know the layoff's the concern, but Noah talked about the numbers for the trainer off the layoff, and again loves it here with the setup and pace scenario. Should be able to sit right off, and I'm trusting Shaq Diesel to go back to the form and make Noah pay for not putting the horse on top.
There we go, and always making Noah pay is what we love to do around here, considering that he did leave us. So appreciate that. And look, Charlie, I completely agree with you. Love Mommy Love. I do love her in that spot. So good luck to you as well. I'm just choosing to skip past. I don't even hear what Noah said. Skip past it. Race number 7. Patrick, there's a reason why I put Charlie first. I'm going to be honest, and you'll find it as we continue to go along in best bets. Patrick, win on the number 8 Gosker in the maiden special weight to kick off the late pick 5. And in race number 9, win place bet on the number 8 Pay the Juice, a horse that should be a pretty decent price in that optional claimer that we talked about in the middle of the late pick 5 sequence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the price is we're going to get on the 8 Gosker. I think, we all like that horse. Besides, I think Charlie has that horse in second or third. I can't recall. But, I just like to see, the way the horse has improved and the way, Brendan Walsh has been second time out, should appreciate the extra ground in there. And then Pay the Juice. Listen, I'm going out on a stand there. I'm hoping this horse can take to the turf. They've been trying to run this horse on turf for a while. So why not take a chance in what looks to be a wide open race, especially if Dream On doesn't run back well from the Breeders' Cup.
I agree with you completely. Again, I thought Pay the Juice was interesting, and Gosker, you'll see as we go along here, guys, and that's a little bit of a hint for you. However, the funny thing is that that's 2 win bets for both Patrick and Charlie. And 2 win bets for Noah. God, I've rubbed off on these guys so much. How about that? Look at this. No pick 5s, no pick 3s, win bets only, and things we love to see. Race number 7, Noah, win on number 8 Gosker, and a race number 9, a horse that you talked about, the Ignacio Correas horse that you have a big opinion on, the win on the number 4, Ready for Peace in race number 9, that optional claimer.
Yeah, I was trying to find a double, but the 10 claimer is just tough, and I'm really bad at those races, of course. And then
it's everyone's favorite day of the week, dude.
Then the Shaq Diesel race, I think I would have like 5 or 6 A's and B's. So I think that race is very tough, even though we were very lockstep with the 4 and 7. But yeah, Gosker, we touched on it. I think if anyone coming out of that race needed one, I think it was him, and I think he's going to appreciate the mile. So got him. And then in race 9, like I said earlier, one of my stronger opinions on the day, you guys have this thing that you've been doing called the irresponsible wager of the week.
That is it, my friend.
That would be it right there, my friend. So 2 win bets, and hopefully I get a high five from Matt.
And yes, you do. You do. If you see it in the chat, yes, you do. Look, and Ready for Peace should be a pretty decent price. So irresponsible wager of the week on a decent price, things we don't hear around here too often. So that is good. And of course, I would like to mention my irresponsible wager of the week as we get here. You see why I put Charlie first, guys? Win on Gosker for me as well, which again could run off the screen now. Could run. He could still be running come Sunday, depending on our best bets. I'm also going win on number 8 Gosker as one of my best bets. And race number 10, going a double. The number 3 in the last race, if that horse is anywhere over, I don't know if she will be, or he will be, excuse me. It's a common theme around here, guys. If you guys don't know that we just pronounce horses' genders wrong, that's your own problem at this point, not ours. Nantasket Beach, if that horse is anywhere, above 7, 8 to 5, that's going to be my irresponsible wager of the week. As I'd like to put my money where it is, but on 6 to 1s, I'll the price goes down a little bit for me, but that's going to be my irresponsible wager of the week if that number 3 is anywhere at a decent price. But between Secret Chat and Shaq Diesel, as we touched on, we were all pretty lockstep 4-7 in that last race. And singling in the last race of the day. I know a lot of horizontal players don't like to do that because then you're only alive to one horse come the last race. But Nantasket Beach, if that horse runs anywhere above his races, should be more than good enough to win that race over a lot of horses, I think, which can be shown as filler, if you will. But guys, that will do it for episode number 114 of Bettin N Boozin. Thank you guys all for joining in. Greatly appreciate it. Again, we pull his chain a lot, but thanks to Noah for showing up. Greatly appreciate it as always, and you're more than welcome anytime. And of course, thanks to my co-hosts as well, Patrick, Charlie, and thank you to everyone out there watching. But this has been, of course, episode 114 of Bettin N Boozin, covering Sunshine Classic Day at Gulfstream Park. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.